So when Prem reached out to me to say a few words about family office perspectives and lessons from the ultra-wealthy, it was difficult to say because, to be honest with you, most of the ultra-wealthy are very unique. Very, very, very unique. And it's extremely difficult to draw, let's say, parallels or generalizations across that. The second thing that I realized, and I'm going to make a slight change, and before I get into my speech, I'm going to talk about a few things that I heard the previous speakers talk about. So I've been involved in trying to help do more business in India for a long time. So set up my own businesses in India. This is going back to the 80s. I know I don't look that old, but yes, I'm from the last century. And since then, across various things, and then obviously from both London as well as from Abu Dhabi, it's more of the institutional side that we have been looking at, also advising some of the regulators. Few things that I tell my funds and families who are either operating in India or investing in India, there are some core issues that I think, and I'm going to be very blunt about that. First is, I think we Indians lack ambition. My dream is, for example, to set up the first $10 billion fund in India. Most of the people who wander around, especially when I see in Dubai, they come in and say, yaar, 5 million, 10 million उठवा दो. ये चिंदीपना का काम नहीं है. We should stop pissing around with such small amounts. India deserves much bigger sums of money. And the reason why I can say this with confidence is because, to give you an example, I was involved in some shape or form with some of the very large checks that were cut from Abu Dhabi for India, and there is more investments that is going in. The third thing is, chindipana nikal aata hai. And the one thing that I keep on very bluntly saying is, stop being middle class. You're talking about wealthy people. When you walk in there, you have to strut. You have to walk like you understand wealthy people. It just doesn't start with talking about just numbers here and numbers there. And something which I'll talk about, when we are talking about the ultra-wealthy, you're talking about building a relationship. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that if you look at the numbers, and if you're thinking about what your strategy should be over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm going to give 2 pieces of advice. The India story is done. People know about it. Paisa aa raha hai. The next thing is the Indian money that is coming out. In the next 2 to 3 years, you need to focus on how are you going to manage the Indian money that is coming out and wanting to invest abroad. If you look at the statistics from the IFSA, from last Q4, the amount of money that is coming out via the OPI route has shot up. What is your strategy to deal with it? In the next 5 to 7 years, your strategy should be completely different. How are you planning to put together an organization in India which is going to show that we can manage infrastructure financing for the global south? We know how to handle, data problems. We know how to handle electricity problems, sewage. We know how to build roads in one of the most difficult terrains with corruption, with bad state capacity. That is our competitive strength. And if you can do that there, in India, you can do it anywhere else in the global south. So let me talk about capital is global, families are multi-generational, and the risk is personal. This is what I see. I mean, again, working in London or in New York and now from Abu Dhabi, it has been my privilege and honor to be sitting down with fairly large, chunky people. This idea of you walking in there and saying, come and look at India, doesn't work for them. You are not talking about them giving you some money. You have to talk about what is the ambition that you are laying out. So they see the world as opportunity, not home and foreign. For them, the entire world is a home. You guys are going there and pitching the wrong thing. Absolutely get rid of this sepoy thinking that ki saab mere ko 4 rupiya de do. What rubbish. That's what I said. Strut. Walk there. You are confident. You are able to talk not just about investing in India, but also I can talk about connecting you to people who are going to take money out of India. And third is, you know what, in 5 years' time, I will be a global financial hub and I can deal with your global portfolios. Once you come across with that kind of confidence, then you start having this engagement with these ultra-wealthy people. Because they are not thinking about just a transaction. They optimize for resilience, not for returns. The first thing that you need to talk about is, how are you going to maintain the volatility of the returns over the next 5, 10 years? Every year, you're going to have downturn. That's fine. That's not what they're worried about. The next thing that they care about is governance, alignment, and control. Brochures, they're not even going to talk about it. Am I going to be comfortable with you? What is your governance? Who's on your board? How is your reporting happening? Some of the decks I see from Indian managers are rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. इतने ज़्यादा number डाल देते हैं कि समझ में नहीं आता. Please don't sell product. Sell the person. You are supposed to sell the governance. These people want you to explain to them how are you going to safeguard their money. Because the first thing that families talk about is wealth preservation. Returns come third or fourth or fifth. Relationships and trust matter more than product labels. This is vital. And we keep on forgetting it. We keep on doing product sales, we keep on doing transaction sales, and we keep on selling returns. Do not do that. You have to bring yourself out. That is the key thing, relationships and trust. Think about small things. When you're going out and meeting them, give them a small gift. And please don't take laddus. And don't take a charger, for heaven's sake. Give them something thoughtful. If you're sitting out of Surat, bring something local. Give a small gift. Occupy the space in their mind. And the last thing is, if they do not understand it in one coffee, they will not invest in it. Wealthy people are extremely parsimonious with their time. Extremely. Her meeting has to give me value. And the value, what you have to remember is not doing a product sale. The example that I gave was the first time that I came down to Abu Dhabi, I actually calculated for one sovereign wealth fund, they get 9,000 decks per year. And this is something that you have to think about is the growth story has been sold. Do not sell India. You are wasting your time. Wealthy people had said time parsimonious. Do not sell India. That has been sold. And when you are talking to the principal, you think he really cares about the numbers? That's what he's got his team for. What's the point of telling him, Saab, mera 12% return hai. And the next guy comes in and says, mine is 12.5. And you are expecting a person who's got a $500 million family office to remember the difference between 12 and 12.5% on one fund, and he's going to have 50 meetings that month? No. You know what he's going to remember? The joke that you said. The little book that you bought, that tiny statue of Lakshmi that you got, and you gave him an example of what was the story behind that. You need to get inside the head, not inside the wallet. Clear and predictable rule of law and tax outcomes. India doesn't help. We are very volatile about it. Face it head on. Speak to your advisor, get it sorted. And Gift City has been talked about, and it's a good place. It's much better than the onshore. That's there. The next thing is participation in long-term Indian themes. I also find Indian managers and products are extremely short-term in pitching. They are not able to articulate the investment horizon for more than 5 to 10 years. Remember, when I'm talking about from a wealthy person investing in your product, it's just like a job. You shouldn't ever look for a job in your first job. You should always be thinking about your second job or the third job. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if I'm sitting like a family office and I'm looking at a product person, pehla investment theek hai. I'm actually thinking, is this guy going to give me consistent good returns over the next fund and the fund after? Is he going to walk in with me for an interesting product? That's what I meant. Give them long-term themes. The next thing, structures that work for global Indians who live in Dubai, London, Singapore, and beyond. As I said, the new wave that is coming out is the money that is coming out of India. The pitches the little that I heard was still Purana Ghisapita thing. Sahab, India mein paisa dal do. Just look at the number of distributors who are here. How many, I think Prem said 70% of distributors are here. You all are going and pitching the same thing. What is a distinguishing factor? You have to take a step back and say, look, I'm meeting you in Dubai, I'm meeting you in Sharjah, I'm meeting you in Abu Dhabi, I'm meeting you wherever. I can talk to you about your global allocation. I can talk to you about India is one part of your allocation. I just don't want to talk about that. I can talk about how it can involve lots of other things. Your money is outside as well. You know, let me connect you there. That's the kind of engagement you're looking at. The other thing that you're going to find is that unlike an Indian family or wealth that you go and speak to, where both the investment manager and the owner of the wealth are frequently the same person, for global family offices, they are not. The principles are different and the investment manager is different. So the professional managers, the CIOs, they operate completely differently. And there are different levels of that. You have the board, then you have the investment committee, then you have the CIO, then you have the sector head, then you have the strategist, then you have the analyst. Who are you pitching to? Remember, you are going and talking to them for a minimum allocation of anything between $25 to $50 million. You have to learn how to navigate this. And the last one is credible exit routes in public and private markets in India and offshore. I go back, take a look at the IFSA report, please. It's one of the best regulatory reports that talk about the data from a financial center. I've never actually found any other financial center presenting that kind of data. Usko ghote maro. Especially look at the outbound money. That's where you're going to help out because that money is exit money and money that is getting invested outside. When you go and pitch, you are pitching for money that might not be there in their pocket. You have to capture the money which either comes through exit or is freshly generated. That is new money. That's the easiest for you to get. If you're trying to reallocate money, then it's a very difficult sale. This is something that I talked about. Please don't sell product. For heaven's sake, aloo nahi bech rahe. You are a chef at a restaurant where you are going to go for every anniversary dinner. You're not sitting in a hut and saying, ye aloo kharid lo. This is what's the difference between somebody who's a chef and somebody who's selling potatoes. So the joined-up story you need to tell that links the structure, jurisdiction, and product to the family outcomes. What I tell all my CEOs and my heads of business development is, what is your first question that you should ask? Whoever you are meeting. Frequently, they just launch into the product pitch. I said, that is rubbish. The first question you need to ask is, how is your bonus calculated at end of the year? You need to understand how do they measure success. Your product is not necessarily the case. And 9 times out of 10, that is not the solution that they're looking for. They're looking for something else. Simple, clean documentation that a next generation family member can understand. 4 to 5 times out of 10, the principal will pick up the deck and send it off to his nephew or his son or a daughter and say, I got this, what do you think? And they look at it and say, Baba, ye to samajh mein nahi aa raha, ye sab kya hai? I'm getting bored. One pager. Simple. I've just decided to invest in an Indian company which is taking world's classics and making them into graphic novels. People don't like to read. And you have given them just a product brochure which is full of text and numbers. Why don't you create your decks in a graphic novel format? Blown your mind? Why not? I'm going to try it out. AI-generated pitch decks in a graphic novel format. Have a think about that. Real risk conversations, downside first and upside later. Another problem with Indian managers. Sab changa ji. Problems never happen. And if there is a problem, then that you are asking somebody to give you $25 million over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You know what I feel when you come across and say, sab theek hai. I feel you have no idea about managing money. You have to first tell me the downside. Remember, the number one thing that wealthy people worry about is wealth preservation. Returns come third at best. First is wealth preservation, second is how do I pass on my money to my successors, third comes returns. You are selling to the third priority. Your first is, आपका पैसा कैसे बचाऊं मैं? Reporting, painful. Absolutely rubbish. Everybody thinks उनका पूरा पैसा आपके पास में ही है, so that my Excel sheet that I'm going to send or the PDF is enough. And the poor bugger is sitting over there with 50 PDFs and Excel sheets and trying to bring it together. Why do you make it difficult for people to follow your performance? Final thing is, this is where I've seen the most attraction. If you go there with a packaged solution, they generally don't like it because it is very, very fungible. If you take all the mutual funds, all the AIFs and put them together, the distribution curve, and I'm a nerd, so please believe me, they're all clustered around the mean. The distribution is very, very small. Everybody is following the same thing. So for the 20-25% of rich people who actually do want to take risks, besides, obviously, if you are working for a company and that is the product you have got, you have to sell that. But then go to them and say, we can offer you co-investment, club deals, curated opportunities, not just mass market fund. You personally should be able to offer your network to them. If you take a product, then you are competing with hundreds of others. You take a co-investment opportunity, you are most likely one of two. Nobody is going to say no. At least you get to have a chance to speak to them. As I said, India is emotion. Emotions play a very, very large role. And you are talking about executable allocation. The first is you need to think about what the global balance sheet is. Use your AI tools to analyze that. देख लो, कहाँ पैसा लगा रहे हैं? You will find that a substantial amount of their money is tied up in the family businesses. People forget about that. I've spoken to so many families who basically say, myself, I would much rather prefer to put any additional money into my existing businesses rather than go and invest in somewhere else. You know why? Just before I came, I was sitting upstairs and doing a board meeting. The guys are giving me 30% return. That's the margin that I'm earning. When somebody walks in and says, "Saab, 12% mil jayenge." I'm not looking for the return with you. I'm looking at a diversification piece. But then if you come to me with something different, then I understand. You have to understand a family's investment allocation methodology. One of the quick ways of doing this is to keep looking at the private banks who publish the regular surveys and speak to the wealthy. Jhoot bolo. Keep your nose in. Don't be a Pinocchio or bolo, I was talking to these wealthy people and this is how their investment allocation is looking like. 60%, 50% in public equities, 30% in bonds. Then you've got real estate, 10, 20%. You've got then a little bit of AIFs and then gold and things like that. Of course, the numbers change. But then you are, for a global family office, fighting over maybe 0.8% of their allocation. You need to think about that allocation. Use Dubai and other hubs as bridges for structuring residency and succession. Yesterday evening, I met up with 3 family offices. Anyway, we were talking about stable coins, and we were talking about how India is issuing a public debt-backed stable coin. Fascinating. Thanks to Nirmala ji, she basically killed the crypto industry in India, and then the next day, all the planes from India to Sharjah and Dubai were full of all the crypto boys coming and living here. I can't set up my family office, this and that. So at 10 o'clock, my CEO is sitting over here, Devika. I messaged her, linked her up, and over the next half an hour, they are busy chatting on WhatsApp. The reason why I'm trying to raise is that you are seeing this awesome wave of money coming out of India. You need to capture that. What you are trying to do is to try and capture a very large, old, traditional, boring wave that is going back into India. It is very difficult. Look further. Design India strategies that speak to purpose, philanthropy, sustainability, and nation building. Emotion. Talk about that. Create educational journeys for next generation visits, immersion trips, and thematic briefings. One thing that really, really upsets me is so few Indian financial institutions do investor meets. So few. I don't know why you don't do that. I have no idea why you don't do that. You know why? Because if you get 50 people into Jaipur, into Ram Vilas Palace, and you sit there and talk about India, and you get somebody else, guess what? They sell you to each other. You don't have to sell. How else are you going to understand them, get them away, give them a reason? We don't do investor meetings. And then, if we align India's story with family office reality, capital will flow in. I've been trying to sell India and encouraging money, whether we are, this is institutional money. So whether we are talking about India Sovereign Wealth Fund, or the Kotaks, or the HDFCs, or I have several units in companies in India, as well as in Gift City. I've been holding these India investor events all around the world. You have to rethink how you pitch. And talking to family offices needs a different way of selling. So, I think I've just about run out of time. You can connect me on LinkedIn. Devika is here. She looks after the multifamily office and advisory. So I unfortunately have to go, but don't ask me difficult questions. She's the expert. So I'm just here for waffling on. Go on, wave so that people know. Yeah, if I can help in any way, please feel free to connect to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
Thank you.
Stay on for a minute. Thank you, Bhaskar. That was candid, brutal at times, insightful though, and entertaining, filled with real-world nuance. Truly appreciated. May I request Anita to come up and felicitate Bhaskar, please?
Thank you.